Hey there, friends and enemies, Joper here again, and today we got some news to talk about with Black Myth Wukong, a game that I think is far more successful than anybody could have imagined. It looked like it was going to be a hit when we were leading up until launch, but the success has been absolutely insane. Number 2 overall concurrent player count ever on Steam and a bunch of sales on PlayStation. It looks like it's really changed the gaming market in China for PS5 as well, which is quite insane and will probably lead to more Chinese developers and Chinese games being made over the long haul on PS5 and Steam specifically. So that's really exciting, and I think the game has been so successful that it was to be assumed that we would see some DLC or maybe a sequel in the future. Now, according to leaks and rumors, we are getting some DLC. It looks like Game Science is planning 2 major DLCs. This has been reported by several people, and it looks like those DLCs will, in total, over double the number of chapters in the game. So currently, if you have not beaten the game, it has 6 chapters available to play. Obviously, lots of bosses and stuff to find within each chapter, and with the 2 DLC, it looks to increase to 13 chapters in total. So that's 7 more, which is pretty insane to think about. Now, this is not entirely surprising for a couple reasons. This is the developer's first game, and with the success that it's had, I would imagine they're probably going to be able to hire more developers, have more people working on the game, and they'll have a lot more ambition with the DLC and potentially a sequel going forward as well. So I think that is something that is unsurprising based on how many units were sold. It looks like well over 10 million in the first few weeks, and so that's going to be absolutely insane, and it does seem like they're going to be gearing up for these DLC and then new games as well in the future. Another thing to remember is that not only are we going to get all of that, but there's probably going to be some good quality of life updates. So this game could potentially look like Cyberpunk 2077 when all is said and done, whereas in the beginning it had a bunch of content, but at the end, once we get the DLC, if we get all these different chapters and a bunch more bosses, maybe more secrets and all these quality of life changes, I think Cyberpunk 2077 with Phantom Liberty is one of the best games we've had in the last 10-15 years. Top 3 maybe, and I think Black Myth Wukong, if done correctly, and if they stick with this formula, if they add these DLC, if they make all these changes, could potentially be on that level. I personally think right now the game is a really good 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5 even, but I don't think it's a generational game. I do think the impact that it's having, especially in the Chinese and other Asian markets, is generational, and I think that's going to be a big stepping stone towards what we see from them in the future. However, I think as far as gameplay goes, while it's excellent overall, I do think there are some flaws that it has that have been gone over in a lot of reviews, so definitely check those out if you haven't already. And I'd love to hear from people on whether you think it's a 10 out of 10 game or not, because I do feel like in comparison, it's hard because I did come right from Shadow of the Erdtree, which I felt like was a bit more fluid, had some more things to uncover. There was so much mystery and so many things to go explore, things to do, places, secrets, all that kind of good stuff, that it felt like it was just grander in scale. But that's what happens, and that's something that I think oftentimes people miss with these developers. From Software have had so many years to develop this formula that the hope is now Game Science will take what they learned with Black Myth Wukong and add to their team, improve upon it over the course of time. We'll get these new DLC. We'll get other new content from them as well in the future. It does look like we have several other Chinese developed games coming to PlayStation as well in the near future, 2025 at the very latest. So that's really, I think, very, very exciting. And overall, I really look forward to the DLC from Black Myth Wukong and how they handle it, because it did feel like this game had a pretty satisfying arc overall. So now adding to that will be very, very interesting, and how they do that and what bosses we get, what locations we see, all that kind of good stuff. I will be fascinated. Plus, it would be nice, I think, if we get some kind of end game content. Maybe it's not going to be something that requires servers or anything like that. It is a single player game at the end of the day, but I do feel like a mode, like something like a multi-boss fight mode, or some kind of other boss fight gauntlet, something of that, I think would be really, really cool as a quality of life or DLC update as well. So that'd be very, very cool to see. I do think we'll get more story, obviously. We'll get more bosses and secrets with the DLC. I just would be very curious if they add a mode that takes you out of the path of the main storyline and does something a little bit different. Remnant 2 is doing this with their upcoming DLC, and I think it is a good idea because it allows people to test their builds. It allows them to take on content that is more than just the base campaign and New Game Plus, and I don't know if this would be possible. So if it's not, that's fine. I don't think it would be a detriment if they didn't include it. I just think it would be really cool and add a ton of replayability to the game, especially when you have pretty much everything unlocked. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Would you play a DLC for Black Myth Wukong? Would you be excited about seeing that in the future? I'd imagine these are going to be quite some time away. We saw it be basically 2 years from Elden Ring to Shadow of the Erdtree. If these DLC are not quite that big, maybe a year between each, maybe like 8 to 10 months. Who knows? That's just speculation at this point, but it does seem like in the future we will get some pretty sizable DLC for Black Myth Wukong, and that's very, very exciting. My name is Jopa. Have a good one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you all later.